This is a quick walkthrough of one of the 3 assignments for the Change Leadership for Sustainability course. This is about the Project Business Case assignment, assignment 1. So let's just scroll down and take a look at what that's all about. This assignment gives you a chance to try using a free open source sustainability ROI workbook. It's an Excel workbook to draft how you would justify a company implementing a proposed project. So the company is a hypothetical large manufacturing or retail company. The situation is that you are a new manager of the sustainability department. A fairly new CEO has come into the company and is kind of keen on sustainability and would like you to propose a project that would help show that that is to say sustainability and projects related to it are good for the company. However, she anticipates that the CFO is not quite as keen on these kinds of things as you and she are. So she says that for you to have this project approved, you need to make sure that the CFO is on board and encourages you to have that kind of conversation with the CFO. So you're preparing preparing a business case for the CFO that's going to help reassure him that this is a good thing for the company as well as for the environment and society. So you're excited about this opportunity. You've heard a rumor that the company is considering refurbishing its headquarters building, and what you'd like to propose is a green building retrofit as opposed to just a normal kind of retrofit for the building. This project probably sounds familiar to you because it's the same one that's used on the Sustainability ROI Workbook webpage to base the help videos around. So let me just scroll down to those, and you've had a chance to look at those. So there are some help videos on how to use the workbook, and they take you through each of the worksheets in the workbook and use an example of a green headquarters retrofit. And you end up with a worksheet that is the result of all of the changes that you've made to it to help build the business case for that retrofit. And actually, it's that workbook that we are going to be using as the foundation for the assignment that you are going to be submitting. So that's what this section about the deliverable is all about. You're going to be using an assignment number 1 workbook to create your deliverable, and it's a tailored version of the workbook that we just described that's on the website. And you're going to be changing some of the fields on that workbook according to the instructions that are on the next page. So let's just scroll down. And there are 2 specific things that you're going to be doing. So you're going to be changing the company financial data in that starter workbook. And you're also going to be changing some assumed percentage improvement values for that financial data as well. The financial data is in yellow cells, and the percentage improvements are in blue cells. And what you need to do is to change those. So let's start with the yellow cells. What you're going to be doing is going to those cells scattered across various worksheets and overwrite them with starting values that are in the same relative scale for this hypothetical company. And the reason you're doing that is just to verify that you're not going to break the worksheet by putting in numbers. And I just want you to make sure that you are comfortable putting information into the worksheet and using numbers that are different from the original ones. So let's show you exactly what we're talking about here and use the worksheet itself. So this is the MGMT198 Assignment 1 workbook, and as it says at the top, it's based on the SRW Help Videos Example workbook. So it looks pretty much the same as the one that was on the website. You'll notice that there are the same worksheets across the bottom. You scroll down on this one, and the information that was filled in with the help videos is still there, so it's already looks like it's finished. So what you're asked to do is to take this and click on each of those worksheets, and you'll notice that some of them have yellow cells. So let's go back to the revenue one, and what you're being asked to do is to just change the number, and then ideally what is the source of the new number or the number that you would like to be able to cite to have a credible support for where you got that number from. It's pretty straightforward. So let's just do that for this one. Let's suppose we wanted to change it from 500 million to 550 million. So you change it to 550 million. So that's pretty straightforward. So you change the number. Now, the interesting part is now that you need to use the comment box to indicate where you would get that number from in the real world. And notice that every time I move over to it, it disappears. So we need to freeze it. And just as a quick refresher, any of the comment boxes associated with these cells can be frozen by right-clicking on the cell. Up pops a menu. You go down to Edit Comment. Click on that, and it freezes the comment. And in the comment are the instructions. Change the value of the yellow cell. We just did that. And use this comment box to document the ideal sources of this value that you would like to be able to cite in the real world. So, you know, if someone said, where did you get that number from? Where would you like to be able to say you got it from? So, for example, if you would like to be able to say, well, I got it from the annual report, and I also confirmed it with somebody in finance. So what you would put into this cell is something to that effect, like this. So it doesn't have to be elaborate. You just name your sources. In this case, one is a document, an annual report, page 29, and then confirmed with somebody, a person, a name in finance. And that's pretty credible. So if someone says, where the heck do you get that number from? Now you've got a couple of sources. Now that you've got that box filled in, you can resize it by using the little white handles on the sides and the corners and so on. And now you have finished with that one. And then you go to the next one and you do the same kind of thing and so on for all of the yellow cells. So the instructions for all of the yellow cells are exactly the same. You have the same comment box for all of them. And what you do is you overwrite that with whatever your source is. And if you're wondering what the source might be, if you're having a little trouble coming up with what that source might be, there's lots of guidance available to you. First of all, there's the guidance associated with the comments in the original workbook. And in fact, the version of this, which is the help videos example. Let me just show you what that looks like. So here's the SRW help videos example itself, the original one that you can download from the website. If you go to the expenses sheet, for example, the yellow cells still have the original comments there. So there's a description and some estimation guidance for each of them. And you can freeze those and read them and come up with how you want to be able to source your proposed amount for that particular cell. So you've got some hints of how that might work there. So you can use that as guidance. And next week we'll be talking about some other tips of where you might be able to get information to be able to plug into some of those financial data cells. So it's pretty straightforward. This company financial data exercise is basically just making a slight modification to each of those yellow cells and then using the comment box to indicate where you would ideally like to be able to reference you received or got that data from. So it's pretty straightforward. It may seem almost too easy, but what this encourages you to do is to start thinking about where you would get that kind of information in the real world so that you would be able to defend your numbers in your business case. Same kind of thing for the blue cells, the assumed percentage improvements. So there are 13 of those. There are percents that are already in there, and we're asking you to change those percents. They're scattered around different cells, and also document where you might be able to get some support for whatever estimate you ended up using. So let me just show you where those are on the worksheet. So here is the revenue growth worksheet. There's one blue cell there, and there's a comment that you would do the same thing as you did with the yellow cell. You'd overwrite that. There are some blue cells as well, estimates of the percent improvement on the expenses part, both at the top. And there are some in the employee area down at the bottom as well. Capital, there's one there. Asset and market values, there are a couple there as well. So they're scattered around. So let's just go back to the expenses one and show you what I mean. So I'll go back up to the top. Let's open this one up. So we'll right click on it. We'll edit the comment, and that freezes the cell. So what this is asking us to do is to change the percentage. So we could change that percentage. Let's do that in a second. And then use this comment box to document the ideal sources and rationale that you would like to be able to cite to back up your estimate. So in an ideal world, how would you be able to defend that estimate of the percentage savings on the energy bill in the building, the headquarters building, as a result of the green building retrofit? So after you have thought this through, this is what you might end up with in that cell as your rationale. So we might like to be able to cite 3 different kinds of sources for this estimate. Perhaps green building associations have done some studies of before and after savings associated with retrofits of buildings. That you could also talk to your operations people and your real estate people and see whether they have any knowledge of this kind of thing, and use their estimates, and perhaps they have a range, and based on experience of a similar another company with a similar kind of headquarters building. So what you're trying to do is come up with some justification to support where you got that number from. Once you're happy with it, you might want to edit it just to show you how to do that. You can, for example, change the font. Just like that. So you can play with this the way you would any text box. Change the size, make it larger, make it smaller, whatever. And then you're done. All we have to do is change this. Let's make it 25. And that's that one. And you do the same thing for the next one, and so on. So that's what you do for all of the blue boxes. So what we've done is we've illustrated what's intended by the instructions here about yellow cells, about blue cells. You'll notice that there's a comment here that any values in the 27 yellow and blue cells are okay. We're not hung up on the numbers here. What this exercise is all about is trying to help you think through where you would need to go to be able to get credible information that you would plug into your business case. So that's what the estimation tips are that we'll be talking some more about next week. Guidance in the comment cells that are in the workbook itself and so on are all trying to help you do. And when you submit it, just append your name to the name of the workbook and put it into the Dropbox. So let's just take a look at the scoring rubric for this assignment. You'll notice that there is a criteria column here, a business case assignment scoring rubric. It's going to be on the quality of the support for your company baseline financial data, the quality of support for the percentage improvement, that's the yellow cells up there, the blue cells here. The tailoring of any terminology, depending on the kind of company that you're using, and the name of it and so on. You may want to change some of the terminology, and I want you to get comfortable doing that if you'd like to be able to do that. And also the quality of your coaching and feedback to a classmate. So just as a reminder, this is very similar to the dynamic that we talked about in the prerequisite course, 193, the intro course. So let me just give you a quick refresher on what that's all about. You'll notice that the instructions say that you're going to be giving feedback to your classmate using the GROW coaching model, which we haven't covered yet, but we will later. And this also gives you a chance then to practice using that as a way in which to have a conversation with someone who's looking for feedback or for advice and counsel. So you're going to be giving feedback to a peer on their assignment. You're going to take a look at their assignment and give them some feedback. Framed using the same criteria that we talked about before. the quality of your company baseline financial data, the percent improvements, and the quality of your support for how you chose those, any tailoring that you've done of the terminology, and so on. So that's the framework by which you're going to be providing some feedback. And they will do the same to you, and they'll give you a score out of 20 points as to the value of your feedback to them, and you give them a score out of 20 as to the value of their feedback to you. And then you self-score yourself on each of these other areas and give yourself a possible score out of 100. And that's what you also submit with your assignment. I take a look at all of that, and I use that as a lot of input for how I am going to give you your final score. So this is a pretty straightforward assignment. It's basically pre-thinking the process that you would go through to be able to use this business case tool in a credible way. It's more important that the process be leading you to sources that you can use to defend where you got these numbers from. So a lot of the success of the business case has to do with the credibility of the sources, and this gives you a chance to pre-think what those might be. Enjoy.